Welcome back to MRM News, and welcome to our studio audience. It's great to see you here. Today's environmental management segment will be discussing pulp and paper mills in central Canada and out on the East Coast, and compare their operations and management techniques to prevent human health and environmental degradation.
With more and more pressure for environmental justice from community members, these facilities have been getting more time in the spotlight. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The kraft pulping process used by the pulp and paper industry consists of taking wood chips containing cellulose fiber and lignin and processing them through 3 steps. The wood chips get cooked, washed, and bleached to separate these components and produce raw paper material. The bleaching process results in the release of effluent water that contains high levels of heavy metals such as mercury, zinc, and cadmium, as well as volatile organic compounds that adversely affect the surrounding environment.
Domtar, a pulp and paper mill in Dryden, Ontario, is under intense scrutiny as a result of neglectful operations during previous ownerships. It has been reported that in 1962, 9 to 11 tons of mercury from the operation of a mercury cell chloralkali plant at the mill site were dumped into the English Wabagoon River, leaving parts of the river polluted at twice the Canadian threshold for mercury remediation. Information has also recently been leaked from a previous employee that he and his co-workers buried more than 50 drums of mercury effluent behind the mill. While the source indicated they lined the pit with plastic as a protective measure, mercury has leached into the soil and over time has led to the pollution of the English Wabagoon River upstream of the Grassy Narrows Indigenous community. The Grassy Narrows community of 800 people relies heavily on fishing and source their drinking water from the English Wabagoon River. Testing has shown mercury levels to be 80 times the natural levels in the area, and this has led to Minamata disease, also known as mercury poisoning, being felt by the majority of the community as a result of eating bioaccumulated contaminated fish and polluted drinking water. To protect themselves from this generational problem, bottled water has been shipped into the community as the Grassy Narrows water treatment plant is severely outdated and does not purify the water to potable standards. The input of mercury has not only been an issue for the health of local communities, but it has also led to the shutdown of commercial fishing and a local economy collapse in 1970. This major health concern created by the pulp mill's mercury outputs is an issue that has received worldwide attention as environmental and health testing showing mercury contamination has been occurring for decades but has been kept quiet. Furthermore, no remedial action plan has been put in place by the mill nor by the government. Contaminated sites are the responsibility of property owners. However, in this case, Domtar is not responsible for the polluting site. This is because in the year 2000, the previous owner, Resolute, severed the mercury disposal area from the property, and in 2009, the site was abandoned as a result of the company going bankrupt. In 2011, the provincial government issued a remediation order on previous mill owners. However, this was fought in court, and it was declared that because the province granted the mill protection from future environmental liability during the purchase of the mill, in the hopes that it would promote mill development and urbanization in the area, they were exempt from remediating the site. This has resulted in the government taking responsibility for its remediation. While remediation techniques have been considered, it remains debated whether moving the sediment during remediation will cause further damage to the aquatic system. The provincial government involvement has consisted of the donation of $85 million for funding healthcare for the community, and the federal government has funded $5 million for the construction of a care home for those affected by mercury poisoning. However, this money has not yet been put towards any development, and the community is getting tired of waiting for the overdue change. Domtar has taken initiative to monitor its current processes and has hired a third party, True Grit Consulting, to assess potential mercury discharge from its chloralkali plant. This is an attempt to put the Grassy Roots community's mind at ease that no active processes are exacerbating the existing problem.
As we travel east, do we see a better managed pulp and paper industry? The short answer is definitely not. About an hour-and-a-half drive from Halifax is the town of Pictou, and what the locals may call its dirty little secret, the Northern Pulp Mill, owned by the American company Scott. Despite the recent news coverage, Northern Pulp and its treatment pond, Boat Harbor, has been on the environmental radar for decades.
Back in 1967, Canada's centennial year, the small Nova Scotia town of Pictou had special reason to celebrate. The provincial government clinched a deal with an American multinational company that would create a lot of work for a lot of people. But the deal with Scott Paper would also pollute the water in an area known locally as a paradise. In its eagerness to sign, Nova Scotia agreed to something almost unheard of in the pulp and paper industry. The province agreed to take care of the water pollution. 22 years later, the decision to turn a small harbor into an industrial lagoon has come back to haunt the politicians.
Representatives said the water was properly treated and natural.
The treatment facility at Boat Harbor is an excellent treatment facility, and I believe is doing the job that it's supposed to be doing. We have in Nova Scotia brownish waters naturally. It's called good Nova Scotia bog water, and its color is not unlike that, and you can see examples of that around the South Shore as you drive and in various other areas in Nova Scotia.
The dumping of up to 75 million liters of effluent per day into Boat Harbor caused the environment to be drastically affected, killing fish and most other aquatic life within only days of operation. Northern Pulp currently sends their effluent via pipe to their Boat Harbor treatment facility and then expels their treated water past the Pictou Landing First Nation community. This has caused increased rates of asthma from the fumes and above national average rates of cancer. Treatment process in Boat Harbor lasts roughly 28 days, allowing heavy metals to precipitate into the sediments, while industrial mixers churn the surface waters to reoxidize the water and reduce anoxic smells. Studies have shown that sediments contain severe marine effects levels of mercury, zinc, copper, and cadmium based on the Ministry of Environment guidelines. With a deadline of January 31st, 2020, Northern Pulp has searched for alternative treatment schemes, including releasing effluent into the Northumberland Strait. This proposal caused immediate backlash from the fishing community, who rely on benthic species such as rock crab and scallop for their livelihoods, as Mi'kmaq fisherman Warren Patrick Francis states in a news documentary.
Northumberland Strait is a breeding ground for lobsters and for herring and mackerel and rock crab, everything that our community fishes on, right? So if we go in there and destroy the habitat for them to reproduce in that, we're generally going to be
However, according to Northern Pulp, with the new state-of-the-art treatment facility being built, the treated effluent into the strait is not expected to be environmentally damaging or affect the local fishers. Locals, especially fishers, are skeptical of these claims, stating that Northern Pulp has not been transparent and that the scientific conclusions made should have taken longer than the 6 months it was completed in. The remediation of Boat Harbor upon opening of the new facility is planned for 2021 to 2025 and includes removing the effluent pipe, draining the pond in sections, removing the 50 years of toxic sediment, and storing it at the nearby sludge disposal cell. This cell is capable of holding 660,000 cubic meters of sediment, which is over the estimated amount within Boat Harbor. New management protocols must be stringent to ensure future generations do not end up with the same set of problems the town of Pictou and the Pictou Landing Mi'kmaq face today.
From these case studies, it is apparent there is an increasing trend that government bodies are having to take responsibility for contaminated paper mill sites. So why do governments allow for these companies to continue to operate? This is largely due to the economic benefit these mills provide to the local economy and forestry industry as a whole.
The shutdown of a mill would affect thousands employed in logging, transport, and final processing roles throughout the province. So the process of remediation and finding a solution to environmental pollution is vital. Despite there being a plan in place for Northern Pulp, more remediation and monitoring techniques should still be considered. The continuation of monitoring physical parameters and using this data to determine the effect this treatment method has on terrestrial biota should be implemented. Through research and consulting, potential human health risk assessments should also be performed to better understand and manage this management issue.
In the case of Domtar, techniques to remediate mercury-contaminated soil have been considered. However, they are still in the research and development stage. The National Risk Management Research Laboratory suggests in situ stabilization and immobilization techniques such as thermal desorption and phytoextraction, as in situ treatment is a better method compared to excavation and disposal, which simply creates contamination issues elsewhere. So this has been MRM News. Thanks for stopping by.
Stay classy.
Well, for all of us here at Channel 4 News, I'm Ron Burgundy. You stay classy, San Diego.
And thanks for stopping by.
But mainly, stay classy.
Thanks for stopping by.
Stay classy, I'm Ron Burgundy.
Thanks for stopping by.
Stay classy. Ron Burgundy.